This is the #1 stop for all things polling and elections in the United States, so make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. Today we're going to be looking at the latest individual polls from all of these battleground states. The first poll is going to be out of the state of Nevada, where Donald Trump has been leading most of the cycle. We see he is now tied with Harris in the latest aggregate. In the latest poll, which is an 1,100 likely voter screen from August 6th to the 8th from the Trafalgar Group, who actually tends to be more accurate despite having a partisan leaning for Republicans. They have Trump up by 3 points with Kennedy on the ballot. That's going to put the state in the lean column. Believe it or not, that's actually similar to my forecast. I have about a 2.3 percentage point victory forecast. So, Trafalgar state polls have been more accurate than most polls, usually only like about a point or two off, sometimes maybe even 3 polls. They got Florida +2, they had Wisconsin +1, I think they had a Pennsylvania as like a dead heat tie, they had Michigan, I believe, is like Biden +1, something to that effect. So clearly their state polls were a lot better than most national pollsters, so that's definitely a good sign that an accurate forecaster is kind of matching, the forecast that I have almost exactly. Looking at the state of Arizona, we are going to be going ahead and looking at the state of Arizona, which is a 1-point lead in the latest Trafalgar poll. Again, 100 likely voters, or 1,100 likely voters from August 6th through the 8th. That's going to be a point victory. Somewhat similar to what I have. I have like a 2.5 point victory, 1 point. I mean, that's within margin of error essentially. So that is pretty decent, to be honest. That's probably due to, Harris possibly gaining in like Maricopa and then Trump performing better statewide. That's probably why that's happening there. Looking at the state of Texas, this is going to be an interesting one, a big prize of 40 electoral college votes. We see in the latest poll from ActiVote, which is only a 400 likely voter screen from July 31st to August 13th. So this poll is going to be pretty skewed. Like, this is just bad polling. This is too long of a time frame to collect polling data in general. So is June 25th to July 18th. That's just way too long. And they have Trump up by 7 points. So that's going to go in the likely column. So they do have him improving from his previous election. If we look at the state of Iowa, I'm curious to see if they even have any matchups with Trump v. Harris. And I believe we probably do not have any of those. And so because of that, we are going to be putting it in the safe Republican column for now. Nebraska's second. This is pretty interesting because I actually don't know if we have any results yet from Nebraska's second in terms of, who is leading in the second congressional district. They all Biden polls, so definitely no data yet. So as of now, I say it's going to go lean Democrat, so we'll just get the margin from our forecast. So that is going to go in the lean Democrat column. The state of Ohio is next in this forecast. We see in the latest Harris-Trump poll from Fabrizio Lee, we see that Trump is up 10 points in the state of Ohio, giving him a comfortable lead there. In the state of Florida, believe it or not, we actually have a lean margin. For the first time in like forever, FAU released this kind of crappy poll with Trump up 3. And if you look into the crosstabs, it's really bad. It's like a R+5 electorate. Even though in 2020 the electorate was R+8 with Trump and Biden, even though the Democrats still had a voter advantage in voter registrations. Now Republicans lead by over 1 million. So there's just no way Trump's going to only be up 3 in the state. But according to the latest poll, that is what's showing. So Florida is in the lean column for this video. Looking at the state of Georgia, before you continue the video, I have an important announcement for you all. Ready Go Politics and I are sponsoring SoCal Strategies, a new pollster that is trying to provide the most honest and transparent polling methodology and analysis that anyone, even from the mainstream media, will give you. in the mainstream media. You have a lot of pollsters trying to fake their numbers and fudge the numbers and wait 2 weeks to poll, but we're not going to do that with SoCal Strategies. Me and Ready Go Politics, a YouTuber who's about to hit 200,000 subscribers, we trust SoCal Strategies to have the most accurate, transparent, and honest data that you can get in the election polling atmosphere, period. So guys, these polls are not free, and we are the main sponsors for them. We're trying to crowd raise this to kind of prove to everybody that there is a movement behind wanting accurate, honest polling data, and the fact that we could potentially lose this if we end up being inaccurate, or at least if SoCal ends up being inaccurate. So guys, make sure to go ahead and donate whatever you possibly can, even if it's about $1, $2, or $5. Anything helps, guys. Anything would be greatly appreciated. We're going to be looking at this. Donald Trump is up by 2 points in the latest Telegraph poll, so that does go in the lean Republican column. Now, looking at the next poll here, we're going to be going to the state of North Carolina, where we've seen a little bit of mixed bag here. We actually have a tied poll from YouGov Blue, which is clearly a partisan, it's a partisan poll. And since this is a tie, we look for the previous result, and it is the Trafalgar poll with Trump up 4 points. So that's going to go in the tilt Republican column. And we have a couple states left to fill out here. We have the state of New Hampshire, which I believe still has that same Emerson College poll of Harris +6. Funny enough, this is actually what I have in the state now. I actually have a Harris +6 poll. But funny enough, I actually have like a Harris +6 result. I can actually pull it up here on the side. My margin there is actually exactly 5.98. So it's almost spot on. It's almost spot on. And Emerson tends to be a somewhat decent pollster as a whole. So this is a pretty good sign that my forecast is going to be accurate. When you have multiple accurate forecasters or pollsters having results very similar to my model. So that is actually pretty interesting. Now, looking at the state of Maine at large, we can go ahead and look at this one. We actually see from the latest poll here, Harris is up about 8 points, so that does go in the likely column. And then in Maine's 2nd congressional district, Trump's only up 4. Now, I can tell you that's a bunch of crap, to be honest, because there's no way he's only going to be up 4 points there. I mean, for crying out loud, if you were to go to the 2020 results, he literally won the state of Maine, or he won Maine's Maine's 2nd by 7 points in 2020, and then he won it by over 10 in 2016. So there's basically no way that that's going to end up, working out. There's no way it's going to be below 7 points. Now, the state of Minnesota, if we look at the latest state poll from Minnesota here, we'll actually be able to find it. We can actually see the latest poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies is +5. And that's actually what I have in the state. But funny enough, I don't use state polls. That's the thing. I don't use state polling. I use approval rating data from civics.com, and I look at trends, and I set up the models in a certain way to weigh certain things. It just so happens to be certain polls that tend to be somewhat accurate. The forecasts tend to be pretty aligned with what they have. So that's pretty interesting. Now, looking at the state of Wisconsin, the next state, Harris is up in the latest poll by 9 points. So that is a little bit of a doozy there. 9 points. I'm going to tell you, that's going to be a huge overestimation of her support. I mean, that's just not going to happen. They probably didn't weigh the electorate right, and the reason why the polls there are always so wrong is because the electorate in 2020 was like R+5, and then the polls had the electorate as like D+1 to 5 whenever they would poll. That's why they would always be so abysmally off. That's how you got like a D+17 poll out of Wisconsin before, because you literally had that happen. Now, Harris in the same pollster is up by 6 in Michigan. I do not believe that. My forecast has Michigan going to her right now, but I just don't believe that it would be a 6-point margin of victory. That I completely doubt. And then the next poll from Quinnipiac, this poll which tends to skew very left. And the fact that she's only up 3 in the Quinnipiac poll really isn't good, by the way. That's really not a good thing, because Let's actually try to find the last Quinnipiac poll. Our poll in Pennsylvania with SoCal Research actually has Trump up 4, and this was from July 20th to the 21st. I think it was like right before Biden dropped out, and Trump was up 4 points. So it's going to be interesting to see once we do this new poll what ends up happening in the state. That's going to definitely be somewhat interesting, but I'm going to try to find the Quinnipiac poll because I believe from my understanding, it's the same lead. Like nothing really changed in the Quinnipiac poll. Like it's still, yeah. You see here, look, with third parties, Biden was ahead by like 2, and then without third parties, Biden was ahead by 3. So it's practically still almost the same thing as the last Quinnipiac poll. So that's gonna go in the lean Democrat column. So, yes, guys, in this video, according to the latest polls, not my own analysis, Harris does get 270 electoral college votes to Trump's 268. This is the first time that this has actually happened where she's actually getting a majority in the electoral college. Now, one more thing, a lot of people are like, really, is Michigan going to flip? I'm not saying it's a guarantee because it's so close, but if we actually look, I believe Trafalgar did a poll here. I love how they put Ready Go Politics is a partisan sponsor for the Republican Party. That's kind of hilarious that they put that there. But if we look here, the New York Times / Siena College poll, if you look at registered voters, Trump is up 3. But when you look at New York Times Siena with third parties, Trump is down in the state by 1, and then insider advantage is like 2. So pretty interesting to take note of. And Trafalgar back in July 15th to the 17th, Biden was down 2 in the state. So that is fairly interesting. And I think their Michigan poll actually had a Harris +2. So guys, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.